I heard him whisper her name before I ever knew she existed. That was the night everything started to crumble, though I didn't realize it yet. He was standing on the balcony, phone pressed to his ear, laughing softly. The kind of laugh people reserve for someone who still makes them feel young. The rain outside blurred the glass, but I could still make out the words that pierced right through me, Dana. You always knew how to make me feel alive. Alive. Funny how one word can sound like a promise and a goodbye all at once. My name is Teresa Johnson, and I'm 29 years old. If you had met me 2 years ago, you would have said I was the kind of woman who had her life together, steady job, a cozy apartment, a boyfriend who remembered my coffee order and texted me good morning. Back then, I thought that was all that love needed to survive: consistency, honesty, small kindnesses. That boyfriend was James, a marketing consultant with a perfect smile and a restless soul. When we met, he said he was done with drama, that he wanted someone real. I took that to mean me. At first, we were inseparable. He'd tell his friends Teresa's the kind of woman who makes you want to do better. We'd cook pasta on Friday nights, fall asleep to crime documentaries, and plan imaginary trips we never took. He said he loved that I was grounded, that I made him feel safe. But safety has a strange way of turning into boredom for people who need constant applause. It started with little comments. You don't dress up like you used to. You always order the same thing. I just miss when everything felt exciting. I laughed it off, thinking he was joking. Then one evening, while we were watching a movie, one of those romantic ones, where the guy surprises his girlfriend with a trip to Paris, James leaned back, smirked, and said, "See that? That's how a man should make his woman feel like a queen." I smiled faintly and said, "Queens still need rent paid, James." He laughed, but something about the way his eyes lingered on the screen made my stomach twist. From that night on, I started losing him piece by piece. He began spending more time on his phone, scrolling through perfectly filtered lives online. His Instagram turned into a stage, shirtless gym photos, captions about knowing your worth, and comments from women I'd never heard of. When I asked who they were, he'd say, "Just friends, Teresa. You're being paranoid." Paranoid. That word became his shield, and my silence became my prison. He started coming home later, smelling like cologne I didn't recognize, humming songs he used to hate. One night, when his phone buzzed on the counter, I glanced down not to snoop, just out of reflex. The name on the screen glowed like a warning, Dana. When he walked in and saw me looking, he didn't flinch. "Oh, that," he said casually. "Just an old friend." "Your ex?" I asked quietly. He sighed like I was a child interrupting him. "Teresa, please, don't start." That was the moment I realized how easy it is for love to sound like guilt when someone stops meaning what they say. That night I couldn't sleep. The glow of his phone screen kept flickering in the dark, lighting up his face while he smiled at something I wasn't allowed to see. And for the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel like his partner. I felt like his audience, and I was watching the show end without knowing when the curtain fell. The first thing to disappear wasn't his affection. It was his attention. James started treating our relationship like a photo shoot, perfectly curated, when people were watching completely hollow when they weren't. He became obsessed with appearances, new clothes, gym selfies, and captions like, "Real men don't chase, they attract." Every time he posted one of those, I could feel something in me tighten, a quiet panic I tried to swallow with logic. He's just confident, I told myself. He's growing. But deep down, I knew he wasn't growing, he was performing. Our dinners turned into silence. He'd sit across from me, scrolling on his phone, barely touching his food. When I'd ask about his day, he'd give one-word answers, then turn the question back on me with practiced politeness. One Friday night, I decided to make things special. I lit candles, cooked his favorite meal, even wore the red dress he once said made me look dangerous. He came home late, smelling faintly of whiskey, tossed his jacket on the chair, and said, "Wow, what's all this?" "I thought we could have dinner." I smiled. He looked at the table, then back at his phone. "Can we eat later?" I promised Dana I'd help her with something. The sound of that name was a blade, sharp and soft at the same time. "Since when are you helping her?" I asked. He looked up finally, his tone flat. "Don't do that, Teresa. You're making this weird." That night, the food went cold, the candles burned out, and I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, while he laughed quietly on the balcony. From that moment, everything felt rehearsed. He'd post photos of sunsets with captions like, "Know your worth, kings." He started calling himself king, ironically, but irony has a way of turning into truth when you say it enough times. When I tried to talk about how distant he'd become, he said, "You're overanalyzing everything. Not everything has to be deep, Teresa. But love is supposed to be deep. It's supposed to have roots. What we had now felt like painted soil." Weeks passed. The gap between us grew so wide I could hear the echo of my own voice when I tried to reach him. One night I came home early and found him sitting in the dark typing fast on his phone, his face lit by the screen, his smile tender. The kind of smile I hadn't seen in months. "Who's that?" I asked gently. He jumped slightly, then forced a grin. "No one. Dana." He rolled his eyes. "You really don't trust me, do you?" "I used to," I said softly. He stood up, then running a hand through his hair like a man exhausted by being accused of his own truth. "I can't do this, Teresa. I can't keep explaining myself every time I text someone. You're suffocating me." "Then stop hiding," I whispered. That made him laugh low and cruel. "You think everything's a mystery. Sometimes people just get bored." I stared at him, trying to find the man who once promised me peace. But all I saw was someone addicted to attention, to being admired, wanted, envied. That night, as he showered, I stood by the bathroom door and listened to the running water. The scent of his cologne mixed with the sound of his laughter echoing from earlier calls. That's when it hit me. I wasn't losing him. He'd already left. He just hadn't told me yet. It ended quietly. No screaming, no throwing things, no tears. Just one final sentence that hung between us like smoke. "You make me feel small, Teresa." I remember blinking at him, trying to understand. "Small James, all I've ever done is support you." He sighed, running his hand through his perfectly styled hair. "That's the problem. You make everything so steady, predictable. I need passion, not peace." I stood there frozen, a takeout bag still in my hands. I had come home early to surprise him. Turns out he had his own surprise waiting, a breakup speech rehearsed down to the tone. I didn't fight. I didn't beg. I just placed the bag on the counter and said quietly, "Then go, rule your kingdom." He stared at me, startled, maybe expecting drama. Instead, I gave him calm, and calm was something he couldn't perform against. He left that night with his suitcase and his phone buzzing nonstop. By morning, his social media was filled with new posts, a mirror selfie captioned, "King energy only." And there she was, Dana, appearing in his tagged photos again, smiling, radiant, dangerous. Mutual friends started sending screenshots. "Teresa, have you seen this? He looks happy. Are you okay?" I muted everything. I deleted his number. But silence has a sound, a low, aching hum that follows you into every room. For weeks, I moved through life like a ghost. I still made coffee for 2 out of habit, still looked at my phone expecting his name to appear. But all that ever came were notifications I refused to open. Then something strange happened. The quiet stopped hurting. I started noticing small things again. The warmth of sunlight on my hands. While I worked, the sound of rain against my window, the way peace. Real peace doesn't ask to be seen. I went to work early, stayed late. My boss noticed. "You seem focused lately," he said. I finally stopped multitasking my heartbreak, I joked. Within months, I was promoted. I joined a gym, picked up painting. Again, even went on a weekend trip alone, my first solo vacation ever. For the first time, my reflection didn't look lonely. It looked alive. But life has a way of testing you right when you start to heal. One evening, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Hey, it's me. I hope you don't hate me." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then another text came. "I miss how easy things were with you." I didn't reply. The old Teresa would have wanted closure. But the new me understood something she never did before. Sometimes silence is the closure. Still that night, as I sat on my balcony with the city glowing below, I whispered softly to no one. "You wanted to feel like a King James. I just wanted to feel seen." And somewhere out there, I imagined him scrolling through his phone, the man who once craved an audience, realizing that not everyone would keep watching his show. It had been 3 months since James walked out of my life. Long enough for his ghost to fade, but not long enough for the memory to lose its voice. I was finally getting used to the quiet again, until fate decided to test my peace in the most unexpected way. That Friday evening, I stopped by a cafe near my office after work. The place was packed, the smell of roasted beans and rain-soaked pavement mixing in the air. I stood in line, half distracted, scrolling through my phone until I heard it. That laugh. Light, confident, rehearsed. I would have known it anywhere. I turned my head slowly. There he was, James, sitting by the window phone in one hand, the other resting lazily beside the woman across from him, Dana. For a moment, my heart forgot how to beat. He looked different, tired around the eyes, posture slouched slightly. The man who once demanded to be seen now looked like he'd been performing too long without applause. Dana, on the other hand, was scrolling through her phone, not even looking at him. Her laugh came late, polite, distracted. He tried to make her laugh again louder this time, but she only smiled faintly. That's when he looked up and saw me. His expression froze, that trademark confidence flickering into something small, regret. Maybe Teresa, he said, standing abruptly. Wow, it's been forever. Hey, I said evenly. Didn't expect to see you here. He brushed a hand through his hair, the same nervous tick he had when he used to lie. You look good. So do you? I lied. Dana looked up, finally curious. Her eyes darted between us, then back to her phone. James shifted awkwardly. Can we talk sometime, just to catch up? I glanced at her, then back at him. I don't think that's a good idea. His smile faltered. Right, of course. I ordered my coffee paid and walked out. But as I turned back through the window, I caught him watching me go, that same look people get when they realize the story moved on without them. That night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I'm sorry, Teresa, for everything. Can we please talk? I stared at the message for a full minute before locking the screen. 2 days later, another text arrived. I made a mistake. Dana's not who I thought she was. I just want to explain. I ignored it. But then came the letter taped to my apartment door, written in his familiar, messy handwriting. I know you don't want to see me, but please, just 5 minutes. I need to tell you something face to face. I should have thrown it away. But curiosity, or maybe the last ember of closure, got the better of me. So the next evening, I found myself walking toward the park near our old apartment. The sky was bruised purple, the streetlights just starting to hum to life. He was already there, sitting on the bench, hood pulled up, hands shoved in his pockets. When he looked up, I saw a version of him I hadn't seen before, stripped of pride, of polish, of performance. Thank you for coming, he said softly. I nodded once. You wanted 5 minutes. He swallowed hard, eyes glistening. I messed up, Teresa. You were right about everything. And just like that, the stage was set, only this time the script was mine to write. The park was nearly empty that night. Just the hum of distant traffic and the whisper of leaves scraping across the pavement. The air smelled like rain, heavy and metallic, the kind that comes right before a storm. James stood slowly when he saw me, his eyes red around the edges like he hadn't slept in days. He looked nothing like the man who left me for his queen. No suit, no cologne, no confidence, just exhaustion. I don't even know where to start, he said quietly. Try the truth, I replied. He nodded, rubbing the back of his neck. Dana, she wasn't what I thought. At first it was fun, she made me feel wanted again. But then everything became about her. Her image, her followers, her plans. She used me, Teresa, for money, attention, everything. When I ran out, she ran too. I stayed silent. The old me would have asked why, how, what happened. But now I just let the silence make him uncomfortable. He took a shaky breath. You were right. About everything. I thought I needed passion, chaos, fire. But I didn't realize how cold it gets when all the flames burn out. I finally met his eyes. So what do you want from me, James? He hesitated. A second chance. I know I don't deserve it, but... I cut him off. You don't. He flinched. I don't hate you, I continued. But I don't need to start over with someone who made me feel small so he could feel big. Teresa, I was stupid. I thought stability meant boredom. But you were peace. I see that now. You see it because you lost it, I said softly. You didn't want a partner, James. You wanted a mirror, something that reflected your best angle back at you. He swallowed hard, tears welling. You make it sound like I'm a terrible person. I shook my head. No, you're just someone who confuses attention for love. He took a step forward. Please, Teresa, I miss you. I miss us. We can rebuild. I stepped back. You don't miss me. You miss the version of yourself you liked when I loved you. The words hit him like glass. His shoulders slumped, the last bit of pride draining from his face. He whispered, I'm sorry. And for the first time, I believed him. But I also knew something he didn't. Apologies don't rebuild what someone chose to burn. I looked at him one last time and said, You wanted a Queen, James. But I was never meant to sit beside a king. I was meant to build my own crown. I turned and walked away, my heels clicking softly against the wet pavement. Behind me, I could still hear him whisper, Teresa. But I didn't look back. By the time I reached the edge of the park, the rain had started, thin silver streaks falling like applause from the sky. And for the first time, it didn't sound like grief. It sounded like freedom. 6 months later, James was nothing more than a ghost of a chapter I'd already closed. Life had fallen into a rhythm that finally made sense again. Calm mornings, coffee and silence. Weekends, painting by the window. no longer waiting for someone to text back. I thought I'd reached the final act of our story, but life has a strange sense of irony. One Monday morning, I received an email from HR. New project coordinator, joining your department this quarter. Please review her onboarding schedule. I opened the attached file, scanning the details, and then I froze. Name James Porter. I laughed out loud, that low, disbelieving laugh you give when the universe clearly has a sense of humor. The following week, he walked into the glass-walled office looking smaller somehow. His once effortless confidence was gone. His eyes met mine across the conference table, startled, uncertain. Teresa, he breathed almost a whisper. Good morning, I said evenly. Orientation starts at 9. You'll be working with my team. I saw the flicker of panic in his face. Maybe he'd expected anger. Maybe he'd expected tears. But indifference. That was something he never rehearsed for. Days turned into weeks. We barely spoke except for professional matters. He was polite, painfully so. Always careful, always measured. The other employees said he seemed off. He's nice, one intern said to me, but sad. Like he's somewhere else all the time. I didn't respond. Some lessons don't need explanations. Then, one evening, after a long meeting, he caught me in the hallway. Teresa, he called softly. Can we talk? I checked my watch. Make it quick. He took a deep breath. I know this must be weird for you. It's weird for me too. But I wanted to say I'm sorry again for everything. Before, when I apologized, I just wanted to ease my guilt. But now I actually mean it. I kept my tone calm. You already did, James. I accepted it. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. Working here, seeing how good you are at what you do. It's humbling. You're thriving. It's hard to watch, but I'm proud of you. I looked him straight in the eyes. You don't owe me pride, and I don't owe you forgiveness. We're just coworkers now. Something in him broke then. Not loudly, not visibly, but quietly, like the sound of glass cracking under a thick rug. He nodded again. Okay, he whispered, then walked away. A few weeks later, my boss called me into his office. We're restructuring, he said. Budget cuts. The temporary coordinator position has to go. He hesitated, eyes apologetic. Since you're technically his supervisor, I'd like you to sit in on the exit meeting. I think he'll take it better hearing it from someone familiar. I agreed, not out of sympathy, out of closure. The next morning, James sat across from HR, clutching his folder. He didn't argue, didn't beg. He just nodded, eyes wet, and when it was over, he stood, turned to me, and said softly, Thank you for not being cruel. Take care of yourself, James, I said. He gave me a faint, trembling smile. You too, Teresa. And just like that, he was gone. A month later, a mutual friend mentioned he'd moved back in with his parents. Apparently, Dana left him in debt, she said quietly. He's working part-time now. I didn't feel joy, not even revenge, just closure. Because real revenge isn't watching someone fall. It's standing tall while they fade quietly into the background. Almost a year to the day after he left, I got a message on LinkedIn. Hey, Teresa, just wanted to say congratulations on everything you've accomplished. You deserve it. I'm proud of you. I hovered over the reply box for a long time, then typed back. Thank you, James. I wish you well. That night, I sat on my balcony, tea steaming in my hands, watching the city glow like gold dust below me. The air felt cleaner somehow, like my lungs had finally caught up with my freedom. He wanted to be a king, but I was never meant to stand beside one. I was meant to build my own kingdom, brick by brick, silence by silence, truth by truth. And this time I ruled alone, peacefully, beautifully, completely.